Hello again. The City of Johannesburg has been planning to relocate 1,000 residents from the densely populated Setswetla informal settlement in Alexandra. We get you an update on the relocation. I'm joined by MMC for Housing in the City of Johannesburg, Mlungisi Mabaso. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. If you could tell us, please, more details in terms of why these relocations will be taking place.
Oh, well, thank you very much for having me on the show, and greetings to the viewers as well. What had happened is that when the president declares the national disaster, when the first case of COVID-19 was reported in South Africa, then the cabinet took a resolution to say that we must try and decongest all these high dense populated areas. And Setswetla in Alexandra was one of those areas that we identified. But it's not only that area in Johannesburg that we identified. Your Zandspruit, your Diepsloot and Ravi Ridge and Soweto. Those are areas that were identified. But in Alexandra, what had happened is that immediately after that pronouncement that was made by the president, and that was also a resolution of the cabinet, we then visited the area, Setswetla there. Then when we got there, then we realized that the residents of that particular informal settlement in particular, they struggled to observe and adhere to a social distance as the regulation as outlined by the Department of Health. So we then said we were going to speed up the process of making sure that we start with the project of constructing the temporary units there, so that we de-densify the area, because it's highly congested and there's something need to be done to make sure that the residents of the area at least adhere to a social distancing as a regulation by the Department of Health.
In these areas that you talk about where you're going to be de-densifying, where exactly will people be housed?
No, we are building temporary relocation units in all those areas. We've been to various areas in the City of Johannesburg where we were affected with councillors, looking at the type of structures that can be used, for this project in particular, and they were quite happy with what they saw, because even today morning in Ravi Ridge, to hand over the site to contractors through HDA, because it's one of the agencies that we have employed to assist us in delivering this temporary unit. So these are very decent structures that we will be constructing and that we will be using to relocate our people.
You mentioned that the councillors are happy, but what has been the level of engagement with community members themselves? Are they happy to move? How will it work? Who gets to move and who gets to stay?
No, they are very happy. In Alex, when we visited Setswetla, we received calls, we received SMSs. Our residents, they were complaining, saying that we are only focusing on Setswetla, while there are other areas in Alexandra that are highly congested. And we said we understand that, and 1,600 households in Alexandra is a drop in an ocean, if I may say, but we need to start somewhere. Hence, we said we're going to start. And there have been engagement with various stakeholders, in all our communities, especially where in areas where this project will be taking place. And they are quite happy, and they really do want to be part of this program. And they said they are going to take ownership of this program, and they are going to make sure that there are no disruption on the ground, because we are responding to a pandemic. We are fighting an invisible enemy, and they understand that very well. Hence, we worked very well with our councillors to make sure that we engage with all the affected stakeholders on the ground. And our allocations department is working very closely with our ward councillors to make sure that we identify beneficiaries, because one of the things that we said we are going to do in the City of Johannesburg as part of addressing the issue of housing backlog, as well as that we are going to try and marry this program with the informal settlement upgrade program, so that when we decongest the informal settlement, at least we realign the informal settlements and have access through poaching services and give them title deed. So it's not just a program where we are relocating our people for the purposes of the de-densification to address the issue of overcrowding to respond to COVID. But at the same time, we are making sure that we are going to use this opportunity to upgrade our informal settlements so that we improve the living conditions of our people, so that we also give them the ownership of these places where they are currently staying. So in areas where informal settlements are situated in an area where it's not suitable for development, that's where then we are going to relocate people, all of them. But in areas where they are situated in a developable land, we are going to relocate few people, and then we realign the informal settlements. We put in services there, then we give them title deeds.
Should people be optimistic? We're still none the wiser as to what happened with the Alexandra renewal project. What gives people hope that this will actually pass?
Yeah, I don't know what happened with Alexandra renewal project, because I was still at school by then. But on this one, as a government of local unity, we committed ourselves in working to change people's lives, and we said we are going to work with our people. Hence, we made sure that we engage our stakeholders so that they also take ownership of this program. So we requested them to give us time. We requested them to be patient with us, and we know that as the Department of Housing, people has really lost hope. But we are saying to our people, if they could just give us time, we are going to deliver, and we are going to work with them, and we are going to make sure that we change their living condition for better.
How much more time can people really give? You talk about Soweto as well. When you think of Kliptown Township, a number of people who have been living in these spaces for years, nothing coming through, especially with service delivery. So with these new structures that you talk of, also in terms of water and sanitation, what guarantees do people have that they will have access to that?
Speaking of Kliptown, fortunately tomorrow I have a meeting with my team in the department, because one of the meetings that I held with the leadership of Kliptown before a lockdown, we agreed that because there was a turnkey project that should have started there 4 years ago, and the contractor that was intended to be appointed took the city to court. But we managed then through our legal department to overturn that. So tomorrow I'm meeting with my team to discuss the way forward there, because we said we are going to reblock Kliptown as well. Also, in the budget that was approved last week, there is an allocation of 32 million for the commencement of the turnkey project of Kliptown development, Greater Kliptown development. So we are working towards that, and we are going to make sure that we deliver as per our target, and that we deliver on the budget that has been allocated to us. So in Soweto, as I'm speaking to you now, in Lufereng, because we have employed Lufereng Development Company to do the TRAs there, and they are using brick and mortar, and they are at the completion stage, and we gave them a period of 3 months to complete the 2,000 units, and believe me, I think in August or before the end of August, we will be allocating people from Soweto in Lufereng. So they've already started, and they are way ahead of a targeted time that we allocated to them. So hence we have requested to our people to give us time and to trust us in delivering what we are expected of us to do as the Department of Housing.
Mr. Mabasa, just clarity before we let you go. In terms of the selection criteria, we're talking about a sizable number of people in various communities. How will it be decided who will get space or a structure and who doesn't? What are the qualifying criteria?
No, we'll use the same criteria that we use for BNG, for RDP giveaway houses. So because people that will be allocating in these temporary structures are people that are eligible for RDP giveaway houses, because we are going to allocate them to a permanent structure, because each and every area where we are going to construct these TRUs, and we are making sure that there is an actual development that is following. So in Rabi Ridge today, where we are going to construct these TRUs, we are engaging with other private landowners in that area to give us an access and land rights to develop an area there for the people of Ivory Park in Diepsloot. We are working with province to unlock the project that has been in the pipeline for years, and the province is working with us very well on that one. In Alexandra, we are engaging with other private developers as well that owns land in Region E, and they've also agreed to partner with us, to work with us. So we are going to use a qualifying criteria, the same as the one that the department has been using to allocate people in RDP houses, because the people that will be allocated, that the beneficiaries are the people that will actually be allocated to permanent structures after we've completed with the development of those areas. So there is a qualifying criteria. Hence our unit, allocations unit, is working very close with ward councillors to identify beneficiaries, because we want people that will be people that we can in a long run be able to allocate them to RDP giveaway houses. So we don't want a situation where we've allocated people in these temporary structures, but when it comes to an allocation to a permanent structure and you find that they don't qualify, because of the end of the day, we must take these people out of the temporary structures and put them into permanent structures, because we don't want to make temporary unit permanent in Johannesburg.
Very, very quickly for us in 10 seconds, 34 million rand for Kliptown, but the cost of the entire project for all of these settlements, how much?
No, it's in Kliptown. It's a different one, because it's a turnkey, and we are going to start with the installation of services there. But in the other ones, it's 561 million that was allocated to us, and it was a conditional grant that came with the condition to say this grant will only be allowed to be used for temporary structures for de-densification programs. So it was a conditional grant that was allocated to us by the national government.
MMC for housing in the city of Johannesburg, Mlungisi Mabaso, siyabonga.